This is the Connecticut Business Podcast, show number 5.
Welcome to the CT Business Podcast, where we interview Connecticut business owners and professionals like yourself. Together, we'll learn how to start, grow, and maintain a Connecticut business. Here's your host, Jordan Kenyon.
How's it going, everybody? Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Connecticut Business Podcast. I am your host, Jordan Kenyon, and today we have a great episode planned, cover a lot of marketing material with our guest, Chaz Elliot, who works for the Day Publishing Company. Chaz was born and raised in Texas and attended the University of Texas, where he joined the Navy, which ended up bringing him to Connecticut, where he finished his degree at UConn. He has a wonderful wife, Jeannie, with 2 awesome boys, Chase and Ryder. He's been working in the advertising and marketing field for over 5 years, just joined the Day recently, which has the largest circulation of papers in southeastern Connecticut. Along with the Day, they publish 15 weekly community papers, 3 quarterly magazines. Chaz does all forms of advertising for his clients, but he specializes in digital advertising. The digital advertising aspect is very fluid, and there are changes and new technologies that happen in this realm constantly. This keeps him busy learning new technologies and programs in order to keep up with an ever-changing form of advertising. So, without further ado, let's introduce Chaz.
So why don't we start off by you talking about how you got into the marketing world and got into the Day.
Yeah, so the way I got into marketing was I started working for a liquor and wine distributor, which brought markets or wines and liquors from out of the country to the American market. So it was really, going out doing sales for that. There's a lot of guerrilla marketing. It's really on the ground, like doing your own marketing for it, building brands. And then the company would either sell off the brand to another distributor and bring on a new one to build up, or would keep it. And, there's been several brands that they brought. I really enjoyed the job. I was there for about 2.5 years. It was fun. But I saw an opportunity for the Westerly Sun, which I applied for and got the position. And I worked there for about 1.5 years. It was really cool. I learned a lot. I took a lot of classes in advertising and marketing. I took online courses for college, just to supplement the learning and stuff. But a lot of it was just learning from the ground up, the actual advertising and marketing field. I was approached by the CRO, the Chief Revenue Officer of the Day. He asked if I'd be interested in joining up with them. So I met with them a few times. It seemed like a great jump. Not that the Westerly Sun was bad or anything. It's a great paper. The Day's just a little bit bigger and a little bit more circulation and a little bit more room for growth for me. Right now I have several clients. I manage their advertising, marketing portfolios. I also have clients that just call me and say, hey, I need to run an ad for this. What can you do? That's kind of how it all started.
So you never had formal education in the marketing. It was all...
Not until I started at the Westerly Sun.
So they actually sent you to schooling and...
Yeah, there's a lot of online classes that you can do through media organizations. Like Local Media Association has a ton of classes that you can take, just teaching you the ins and outs of the different types of advertising. There's also a Google trainer. Like if you can get Google certified, which I am, and it basically teaches you the ins and outs of how Google AdWords or Google Search Display, all the different products that they offer. And then once you finish those classes, you're certified in them. And then I did take a few university classes online for it too while I was at the Westerly Sun. I did that on my own just because I wanted to learn more and faster, which helps a lot.
So how tough was Google Trainer to actually learn how Google's algorithm works?
It wasn't hard. I had some experience starting at the Westerly Sun with the Google Analytics, and I played with it a lot myself. and I had taught myself certain things. What it does in the trainers is it teaches you how to open up your options. And, the day is a Google partner. So we have a lot of assets that we can use with Google. So for instance, Google AdWords, it's all an auction system, the words you're buying to use for this search. Those change daily. And so as a Google partner, we have the option to go in and we'll put in what the business type is, what they're looking for, and it'll give us a generated list of price-wise words and the best words to use, the words not to use, the ones that are getting more clicks in the general industry. That's kind of what it teaches you when you do the certification through Google, how to do that stuff. It also teaches you, just the basics as well for anyone who doesn't know how to do it, or how it works. It teaches you from the basics all the way to the tools you can use to help your clients, basically.
So what you talked about the day being a Google partner. So what other things separate the day from other publishing companies?
Well, I think the biggest thing that separates the day from other media outlets and companies is that it's not corporately owned. The day is operated by a split interest trust that was started by the original founder of the Day newspaper. The trust devotes its attention to two different things. One is the newspaper and keeping it running and keeping everything, updating the technology we have. For instance, we're most likely going to be moving to a new building and setting up a new software, so basically keeping us up to standard. The other half of the trust is from our profits that we make gets donated to a charitable foundation. So it's called the Bodenline Public Benevolent Foundation. What this does, how it's set up, is that it ensures that the newspaper will remain independent and locally owned, and that profits from the newspaper are distributed to the nonprofit organizations within our coverage area. So they've donated up, I think it's just over 6 million so far to local charitable foundations.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's no corporate CEO putting money in his pockets. It's a company that the profits are split between building that company further and donating to charity.
So there's no corporate greed.
Exactly. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's corporate media companies that are great and they have a lot of assets and tools, but I think this is what separates the day from them in one way. And that's the biggest way. And one of the reasons that leaned me into joining the company. So
in your opinion, do you think the way the day operates, it better serves the clients because they're more into how your customers' performance is rather than just upselling through the whole process?
Well, I mean, with any business, it's always your goal is always to increase profitability and to increase, in sales, increase customer buys. But the day is very supportive of local companies and our clients and the local nonprofits in the area. So I think adding that special step with our clients and them knowing that the profits are being split to be making the day better, and some of it going to the charities that are in their neighborhoods, kind of separates us from other ones.
And you guys are running free advertising right now for companies affected by the coronavirus, right? Or is it just anybody?
Yeah, well, so right now, because of this whole COVID-19 pandemic / crisis that's going on, we got together as a team and decided that the best thing we could do to help people, especially businesses that are still open and can help people and still serve people, would be to give them some option that didn't cost so many money. So we're calling it our Partner Success Program. What it is we are giving away two column by 3-inch ads to be used in the day or any of our weekly papers. So they'd get 2. That could be split up however they want. They could put them both in the day, or one in the day and one in, say, the Lime Times. But we're also giving them 20,000 impressions to use on the day.com as digital advertising to draw people to their website or their e-commerce platforms or whatever. And with this COVID-19 situation, our web traffic to the day.com has been incredible, insane. They dropped the paywall for the day.com for anything pertaining to the COVID-19 crisis. So people can go on there without a subscription and view all of them that they want. So the last update I got was that we were up in unique users by 30% over this time last year. And we were up in page views by 197% last year. Yeah. So it's the traffic for the past 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks has been pretty incredible. So it's a great time to utilize those free digital ads if you've never done them before and see if they work, because we get full reporting on those digital ads.
So out of the companies that have taken advantage of it, are you able to see, has it improved their business at all?
Well, what it is, so like, this is what's weird, is we put an ad in the paper, and there's other advertisings that we're doing to announce this program, but I haven't gotten the response that I thought I would get, especially for people in the coverage area where I do. I figured I'd be inundated with calls, and I think that people don't think it's real. They think there may be a catch to it, like, oh, they're going to give us free advertising, but then I have to sign up for, and that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is to help our small businesses and other businesses survive during this time by helping out in this way. It's just another way, another form of like charity is what we're kind of
looking at it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the companies that have called,
Yep.
have they gotten sales from it, or?
So we just announced this on Monday. So we have been in process of building the ads. The ads will start running next week, most likely, for most of them. So I haven't gotten that answer yet, because this is a relatively new program. It was just announced on Monday. So the other cool thing is that, what I wanted to say is that for anyone watching, the way to take advantage of those free ads is if they go to www.theday.com/supporting business. And then there will be a form for them to fill out, and it'll sign them up for the program, and whichever rep is in their area will contact them as soon as they get that form.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what businesses are you seeing that are taking advantage of it?
Well, I have some retail places that are still open for so for instance, like Bowerbird in East Lyme, they're one of the ones that are going to take advantage of it. They have e-commerce platform where they can deliver locally or for curbside pickup. So they're one of the ones. A few restaurants that are doing curbside takeout or delivery. Also some dog training places, dog grooming places that you wouldn't think may be open that are open. And, dog grooming, a lot of people wouldn't think that would be deemed an essential business, but dog grooming is leaped in there with like veterinary care, as well as boarding for people who can't, like, if something happens, they have to put their animal somewhere.
So for the businesses that are able to stay open, what would you recommend for them as far as advertising? Do you think they should increase their advertising efforts, or do you think that they should slow them down?
I think that the answer to that depends on where they are as a company. Obviously, there are some people that are very small business owners that, even though they do own a business, they're not making $180,000 a year. They're
Which
making
everybody thinks we do.
Exactly. They're making enough to support their family, or a man and his wife, or a wife and her wife, or a mom and her daughter. It's not necessarily that every business is this huge mega money maker just because they own a business. Now, the first thing I would recommend is to take advantage of any free things that they can do. So taking advantage of their social media pages, their Facebook, their Instagram, Pinterest, if their stuff is very visual or art like. If businesses are trying to recruit employees, take advantage of LinkedIn. The offer that the day's putting out, absolutely free. These are things that they could take advantage of that cost absolutely nothing. Just a little bit of your time during the day. Now, the people who can afford to, I would definitely recommend advertising. And if you're in a business that is succeeding right now, for instance, like a grocery store, a lot of the package stores are recording record numbers right now. I would absolutely advertise. One of the package stores I represent, Village Wines, has offered delivery in their area. And it's something new that they never had. So they've been advertising that every week. And it's working out for them. Restaurants, the same thing. If a restaurant can afford to promote their curbside pickup or no touch pickup, there's a lot of things that people are implementing where, no touch delivery. You call, order, give your card over the line. They come to your door, they knock, they sit it down, they leave. Then you come out.
What about those businesses that are either out of business because they have been shut down by the quarantine and non-essentials, and then also the businesses that are indirectly affected because of sales that they aren't grocery stores, they aren't package stores. They're open, but they're not getting the traffic.
Right. So if you're not getting the traffic, it's because people don't know you're open. Number one could be probably the biggest reason. And, taking advantage of the free options that I mentioned just a little bit ago would be great for them. But if they can afford during this time, especially businesses that are closed, people right now are sitting at home thinking of everything in their home that they want done, that they can't do. Everyone is looking at this, this fireplace, I can't stand it. I want to get a pellet fireplace, and they're looking at it every day, all day. Or they're looking at playground equipment in their yard saying, man, that thing is ratty. I need to get a new one. They're all thinking about this. So this is a good time still for branding for customers, for advertising when this is over. I have a home builder who's advertising and specifically changed his ad this week to say, we are starting the planning for post-COVID-19 in summer and fall for home building and stuff like that. They're specifically letting people know that we know you want to do this. Let us start the planning. So that way, when this is over, we can get started.
Yeah.
And it's a tough situation. A lot of these people that were forced to close because the government told them to, that it's a hard position to be put in. They probably already had to make a lot of tough decisions regarding employees. But one of the things I would absolutely recommend if a business has had to close and they have employees they're worried about, is to try to consult with an employment lawyer that can explain the entire situation, all these new laws that have passed, all this new help that has passed, and because it's confusing. Even the lawyers are having trouble understanding some of it, but now that it's been out there for a while, they've been able to look into it and get questions answered by judges and stuff. So yeah. I
was just reading an article before we hopped on saying that the new SBA loans that were just released today, I believe the payroll protection program, it was released today, but self-employed and 1099 contractors have to wait another week because the banks don't even know what's going on, because it was released today, but they only were notified about the actual specifications last night, so they haven't even gotten a chance to read it.
And it may cause a delay. And, at that time, that's when you just try to have people, hang in there, do what you can. And unfortunately, some of these, crisis packages will, like the payroll protection one of the requirements for it is that you can't lay off or fire anyone for the time being of that program. And if you do, that's when you earn penalties and stuff like that. And people who didn't know this was going to pass, that had to make a decision last week, unfortunately, might not be able to take part of that without penalties. But now that it's out there and you're a business who is teeter-tottering and you're maybe thinking, do we have to lay someone off? Do we have to furlough someone? I would absolutely look into research it yourself. If you have questions, consult with an employment lawyer, because they're the ones who have been really raking over this stuff.
So going back to what you had said about the businesses taking advantage of free advertising through social medias,
Yep.
how can a company that, say, didn't have a social presence get one right now that might help them?
Yeah.
And I know Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn have different mindsets almost when you're on them. So let's go with Facebook. If somebody doesn't have a Facebook presence, how could they start one right now?
Yeah, so we have there's a lot of things they can do, right? You don't have a social media presence just because either you don't understand the technology, or you just didn't want it, or you didn't feel like you needed it. Now, I always try to tell my clients that you have to have some sort of social media. It's the easiest free way to have yourself in the public eye and spread a message straight from your mouth. The first thing you're obviously going to have to do is, create the account, set up everything. And then once you get to that point where you're set up, you're going to really want to backlog in some, photos of your work, photos of your team, yourself, the building. You're really going to want to build in content for, what you do. There's several options on when you're the admin of a Facebook page, where you can go in and set it to where if someone messages you, there's an automatic reply. That way they're not waiting for you to check your Facebook. They get an automatic reply, and then Facebook notifies you that someone messaged you, and you can go check that message and then contact them once you're able to. There's yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, there's just several ways to set up your account to where it's very easy to manage, and it notifies you if you need something, if you need to do something or respond.
Back into the content, what kind of content works on Facebook?
So you definitely you don't want it to be super text heavy. This is just the top of mind stuff that I'm thinking about. The images that you do create, you want them to be powerful. You want them to be interesting. You want to kind of create a hashtag is one of the things that some companies do. They try to create a hashtag that's relevant. That way people can search hashtags and your thing can pop up because of that hashtag. There's a lot of different ways to go about it, and some of it depends on the type of business that you are as well. So
let's go with a more selfish question for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's go with contractors, roofers, landscapers, home builders, that industry. What kind of content works for them on Facebook?
Selfishly on my end, we had Pete come in and do our front garden, in front of our house. And one of the cool things that was cool about that was the time lapse that you did of you doing the front garden. It's not super long. number one, so people's attention is kept. And then number two, I'm able to share that, you're able to share that. And then once I share it to my neighborhood, forum that we have for the neighborhood I live in, then I have people contacting me saying, oh, wow, that's awesome. Who did that? It's an easy, quick way to get people to see it. It's visually stunning. It shows the work that went into it. And at the same time, it doesn't take 5 hours to watch. So I think...
So something that we started doing on our construction projects was time-lapsing. I have hours of time-lapsed footage of the actual job, but we have drone footage, and we put together a minute-long max video. And then what we did is we added animation of our logo in the first 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think companies in our industry should start moving more towards that, with maybe a short paragraph describing the job that they did in the video?
Absolutely. Any kind of graphics or art that you can put onto it to help your branding in the video, because just because I share it doesn't mean that my friends are going to know that, oh, this is Peak Landscaping. What would help is that no matter if the video is coming from you or me, that branding that you put into the actual video of your logo and stuff, I would also at the end, put your phone number, the website, something like that. That way anyone watching instantly knows how they can get in touch with you. Branding's, a lot of people overlook branding. They think of branding as something that McDonald's does, as something that, Big Y does. And that's not the point at all. The point of branding is that to give you or give people top of mind awareness. If they see your logo enough and know what you do, the next time something landscaping in their yard pops up, first thing that pops in their mind, Peak Landscaping.
And that style of content should work, at least in my industry, with contractors, maybe going towards builders and roofers, if they did same thing with time-lapsing their jobs and before and afters and things of that nature. So anything that can really, especially because our business is very visual. So what about someone in, say, like a more brick and mortar industry that could use Facebook? Maybe their business isn't as visual as ours. Maybe they're selling clothing or dog products or something like that, where it's a little bit less visual.
I mean, with those two things, there are ways to make it visual. So that way it does work, whatever platform you're trying to do. One of the things I've been seeing lately from people who are like small boutiques is they're having their sister or their sister's kid modeling like the outfits and taking photos of them like at the park or in the store shopping, whatever it is. But there are ways to make almost any business visual. And if someone's stuck with how to do that, the greatest thing about our time is Google. You can search, how can I advertise my business in a visual way? Or you can search for anything and you're going to find an answer. It might not be a great one every time, but there's ways out there to do it. And I've never been a hands-on type of person, but I literally fixed the door the other day. And I changed the alternator in my car, all based off of Google. Like
YouTube
how to
and Google.
Yeah, exactly. And the information that's at our fingertips nowadays is amazing. So, off of the social media thing, one of the other thing that I feel people are having issue with right now is kind of lead generation. Mm-hmm. And we have all these people at home that have nothing to do You know, unless they are working from home. Obviously they're still working, but there's a lot more free time on your hand working from home. I'm working from home most of the time, but I still have 2 kids that have schooling. My wife's working from home. So it's a very busy house right now, you know,
Yeah.
much more busier than it ever has been. So you have a lot more time on your hands. And one of the options that's out there is doing contests. And any media company can do this. We do all kinds of contests for the day. And, you know, so like driveway pavers, right? They did a contest. It's a case study on it. Did a contest of the ugliest driveway in, let's say, you know, Groton. And people would send in pictures of their driveway. And then the company picked the ugliest driveway of all the photos. And then they got a free driveway makeover, basically. But so from that program, they spent approximately $25,000 on it, right? But from the leads that program generated of people's driveways, they ended up doing $280,000 in business.
Wow.
So you got to think about, you know, the gift they gave away was a big gift. You know, it was a big prize to win. That took up, you know, probably $2,250 of the $25,000. The other $2,000 whatever was charges for, you know, gas and the contest itself and other things. But if there's also ways to get in group contests, which I do those a lot for companies. So for, let's say your business is in downtown Mystic, we could get 10 businesses together to all be a part of the contest, and each business only give away like $100 or a $50 gift card. Not only is it promoting your business, but at the end of these contests, you get the database of the people that entered the contest, as these are people who apparently enjoy downtown Mystic and want to go to these stores in Mystic. But it cuts the cost down so much, and the prize you're giving isn't a very big financial hit for you, but all together with all of the businesses, it ends up being like a $500 gift for the grand prize winner. And it's a great way to get leads. You know, after the contest, I always recommend to my clients, you know, you need to send an email. Thank you so much for entering the contest. We're sorry you didn't win. But if you come in by May 31st, take 15% off your total order, or you get a free gift with any purchase over $50, something to that effect. That way, you're still relevant on the customer's mind, and you got all these leads. You might as well take advantage of them.
So what do you see as the crossover with that when after they send the email? Because now that could also go into your another question for a follow-up for this is, A, does email marketing still work? And B, what's the crossover after they send that email after the contest?
Yeah, so I mean, email marketing definitely works. A lot of it is how you do it. And a lot of it is also the targeting that you use. So if you for email marketing's different in this way, is that when you get this list of emails, unless they are all signups for your email and newsletter, people can go out and buy lists to send a blanket email out. Now, depending on how you narrow down the demographics in that list, depends on how successful you are. Like, I could get a list right now of 90,000 emails of people who live between Mystic and East Line. Now, that's not very targeted. So depending on what you're doing, it's not going to be very effective. Now, if you have the right consultant that can tell you, like, okay, you're a landscaping company, so you're obviously only want this email to go to homeowners. You're going to want this to go to homeowners who can afford to have a landscaping company. So possibly, homes that make over $75,000 a year. You may want also condo owners or condo management companies. You know, the more you narrow it down, the more focused your email goes to, and the more quality audience that you get from your email, which improves your open rates as well as your click-through rates.
And how important is the body of the email?
So you want the email, obviously, with any type of advertising. If they just get an email that's all text, they might read the first two sentences and then they're done. You want it to be visually appealing. You want it to be balanced. You don't want it to have the effect to where when they open it, there's a bunch of those boxes with X's. You know, it has to be formulated properly to where when it opens in a browser, it's not overloaded with Java stuff. It's not overloaded with images that take a while to download, because that's when those X's pop up. So it's, you know, constant contact. You know, there's a few other ones out there that have easy to build, you know, email platforms for businesses. And they tend to work pretty well, but you just need to keep an eye on the sizes of the images you're doing, the amount of text you're putting in, and you always need a call to action. You need to have a purpose for the email. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some businesses do, like I have a business that's sending out a "we're thinking of you" email, basically. You know, like, we miss you. We're in this together. We can't wait to see you when this is done. There's still a call to action. Buy a gift card to come see us when this is all over. You know, something to that effect. You always need a call to action.
So how can you make sure that they open it? The subject is the first thing they see. So how you want bold letters? You want exclamation points? Less is more?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, based on the message you're trying to convey, yeah, bold letters will help, but you don't want it to all be bold. Maybe bold the first letter of every word. Or they have ways where, you know, emojis, you know, stuff like that in the subject line, or even coloring the text, though some can find that not as appealing as other businesses. You know, like Bowerbird, coloring the text would make sense because it's a gift store, a souvenir store, while a hardware store coloring the text, not so much, you know. But you want the subject matter to be appealing enough for them to open, you know. So you're like, let's just say it is a hardware store and it's just prior to winter, and they just got their shipment of snow blowers in, and that's what they're trying to promote. You know, hurt your back last year? Check out these snowblower deals. You know, something to that effect. You know, something, and that's just what popped in my head right there. But I sit with my client, I consult with them, and we kind of brainstorm. Like, okay, what is this going to be all about? What's our whole target for why we're doing this? Let's come up with some catchy headlines, and let's put it in front of a group of people and see which one gets the most. Because if you have a group of 10 people and you put out 5 subject lines, 7 of them like one of them, but only 3 like the other ones, you know, then it's kind of a visual standard of how that they're going to react to the email as well.
So do you guys, when you're testing different headlines, like you said, do you guys use things like Ad Espresso?
Me personally, I don't. I'm sure there are people who do. What I do is, you know, I've always felt that I have a very creative mind. I look at things a little differently. I try to think outside of the box as well as streamline and mainstream, because I think the best thing you can do is kind of a mix of both. If you can mix in some outside of the box thinking with the mainstream, you know, we're going to get a lot of people. The outside the box thinking, I feel, is what draws that interest. It's like, you know. And so what I do is, we have a team of people that I meet with every week. And when I have stuff like this, it's about 12 people in the meeting. when it comes to my turn, I'm like, okay, here's my things I want help with from all of you. And then I lay out like, a subject line for an email, or I say, a catch line for a new business and their new advertising. And I'll say, these are the things that we came up with. What do you think? And then they'll say which ones they like the most. But every now and then you'll get one from someone there that's like, I think it'd be great if you added this. And then it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. It's kind of like a meeting of the heads of all the people that do the same thing I do.
Yeah. So, where am I going with that? Here we are. So how do you know when an ad is performing to your standards? Obviously, you guys get the data from the back end, but what parameters define a successful ad?
So a lot of the times when I talk to my clients, it depends on what the goal of their whole advertising campaign is. So if their goal is signups, then that's how I base the goal. Like, you may have gotten 1.2 click-through rate, which is phenomenal, by the way. But how many signups did you get? If they got no signups from it, then I don't consider the campaign as being effective. Like, they had engagement, but no one signed up. So the way I gear my campaigns when I do my consultations is I try to be as thorough as possible. Number one, I'll ask, what have you tried before for this? Did it work? What was good about it? What wasn't good about it? Have you tried this? What is the entire goal of this campaign? How do you want to measure if this campaign is successful? And by being very thorough with your consultation, it helps you build the correct advertising platforms to use to get the results that they would consider a successful campaign.
So I have a real world example from an ad that I set up. Mm-hmm. Now, if this was a campaign that you guys had done, how would you guys handle it? So I had when I was doing marketing for our maintenance packages, mm-hmm. I sent an ad. And you ever hear of ClickFunnels?
Me personally, no.
So it's like, it's not really geared for my business, but I made it work for my business. Uh-huh. You know how like you click on something and it says, oh, give me your email address, and then you give them the email, then they send you an email and it's an upsell to a whole like big ticket item. That's the whole point of ClickFunnels, but I liked it because
I thought you were talking about a business called ClickFunnels.
Oh, well, the business is called ClickFunnels, but it's exactly, that's what it is. It's a sales funnel. Yes. And so I like it because I can make one-page websites without having to so I can buy a domain and then make the website specific for the campaign. Right. Not really what the whole ClickFunnels system is for, but it works because of that reason. So I made a one-page ad for my maintenance packages.
Yep.
And I had 453 clicks. And I think I had like 5,000 impressions or something like that. And I had 3 signups. Would you guys, and then I closed 1 out of those 3. Would you consider that a successful click-through? And if not, how would you guys then analyze that data to then fix it for your client?
If it was only 5,000, did you say 5,000?
I believe it was 5,000 impressions.
Okay. 453 clicks on 5,000 impressions is amazing. Okay. Very, very good. That for a click-through rate. Now, 3 people. What did you say the 3 people did?
They actually ended up signing up, but then out of the 3 leads, I closed 1.
Okay, so 3 leads, 1 close. So the way, if your whole goal was to get signups, you got or to get closes. You got
Mhm.
one close. But one of the ways I would look at this is, number one, the click-through rate was amazing. The message apparently appealed to whatever it was that you created. Number two, what was the price of the program and what was the overall income from the one close, and then base it off your return on investment. So let's say if these 5,000 impressions costed you $500, but
Yeah, that's about right.
this sign up over the year is going to earn you 1,000, then obviously you doubled your money.
Yeah.
So to me, that's successful. Now, if to an owner who all he wanted was, I'm going to judge this on if I get 5 signups, no matter how you explain it to them, it's not going to be successful to them because they wanted 5 signups or 5 closes. But in my opinion, the way I would try to work it out is like, look, your return on investment is there. You doubled it. If you double the investment next time, expect double the reaction that you're getting. And you may, instead of 1 close, get 3 close. And then you're almost, what is 150% off of the,
So let's say those numbers were bad.
Yep.
On your end, what would you guys do to try and change it for the next run?
Yep. So there's some things that, so was this on Facebook or what was it?
I ran it through Ad Espresso.
Okay, got it.
And on there you can do different headlines, different bodies. So I think it ended up being like 200 different variations between the pictures, the headlines, and things like that. So
and then what about demos? Did all the demos vary also?
Yeah, I had 4 different demos that worked differently, and it was really one picture and one body outperformed everything. Yep. And then the demos kind of floated. There wasn't an overperformance.
Okay, got it. So how drastic were the images and messages different?
One was short form, very right to the point. Yep. One was very long form. And then the pictures were, the over-indexing picture was a very large job we did in Groton of a yard that hadn't been touched all year. And then we came in and basically made the yard look amazing.
So was it kind of like a before and after?
Yeah, they're above and below each other. Same, with little split. That was the over-indexing picture. And then there was four different headlines on the link. Sign up before this date, get this. Are you ready for a landscaper? Landscaping for as low as X.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Okay. Which one of them was the one that outperformed or overperformed?
Long form body.
Okay.
That before and after picture.
Yep.
And then your landscaping for as low as $72 a week.
Okay. Yeah. So what you're appealing to there, number one, visually, this is why I'm thinking it was the more successful one. Number one, the main headline draws your ear right away. Like landscaping for as low as $72 a week, amazing. Like you're pointing out, you're not saying, people tend to make the mistake sometimes of saying the yearly cost or the monthly cost. But when you break it down to the lowest number you can, it tends to help the audience ear and eye. They're like, oh, wow, when you break it down to $72 a week, I can afford that. But, $280 a month does not sound as nice as $72 a week,
Yeah.
And so that's one aspect of it. I think the other subject lines you had weren't bad. The only one, like, are you ready for a landscaper yet? It was a little vague, I think. and I see why it would have maybe underperformed a little. The before and after photo for landscaping is like the magic one. That's like the magic rule for landscaping, is before and after of the worst job. When you walk up and you saw this job, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do here? And then the after of like, wow, look what he did to this. That's like the money maker for landscaping. So I'm not surprised that one was the overperforming, photos that you use. As far as if it were me and those were the results we got, I would obviously run that same one again and maybe change the other variations to something that would try to appeal more to it. I'm trying to think off the top of my head something. Yeah.
Would you double down on that ad and then run other variations like you're saying? Because we were running $25 a day for that. So we ended up running it. We did 250 on that variation and then another 250 on another variation.
Okay.
But yeah, would you double down, say go $20 a day on that specific ad, and then maybe do another variation segment to try another one out, maybe to a certain audience?
Right. So you made $500 off of the close, basically, right? So you spent $500, but you got $1,000 out of it, if that's the theoretical thing we're doing.
Yeah.
Now you have your $500 back that you originally started with, and you have a little bit more. So let's say, okay, you know what? We spent 25 total last time. Let's do the 25 for just this one that performed very well. And then maybe $10 on these other A/B testing ones that you want to do. So then you up your budget by $10, but you're loading the money in, or $10 per week, you're loading the money into the one performed well.
And we use that for a landscaping example because obviously I have the data for that one, but that could be used in any industry as far as, if the numbers were off, and if you did do A/B testing, double down on your positive result. What if all your variations are bad? You didn't have nothing performed like you wanted, and would you just scrap it, or would you go ahead?
No, I mean, fortunately, I've never had that situation happen. There's always been some kind of traction, or always something good that you can see. But there are times when something's not going to work. And it could have been any given number of reasons. Let's say you decided to run this landscaping ad in March, and then out of your control, it snowed the next day, and for a week, who's thinking about landscaping when it's snowing? There could have been outside circumstances that affected the promotion that you were trying to do. Not only that, economic things, like this. Say you put out an ad, a promotion 5 weeks ago, say sign up before March, whatever. I'm sure it would have been affected in some way, but if there was no success at all, I would definitely reevaluate the planning, and get input from friends, other business owners. If you're in a BNI group, this is a business owners podcast. If you're in a BNI group or other networking group, pass ideas by them. You'd be surprised where some of the best ideas I've ever gotten have come from. So it's
almost like your own focus group, where you can bring them your ad, and then say, hey, does this sound good? Put yourself in a customer's shoes. Does this make you want to click?
Right. Hey, Jordan, you know what? Tomorrow at, 12, let's catch a cup of coffee. I want to chat with you about something real quick. It's as simple as that,
Yeah.
And if he can't, then another friend, it's one of the things I would not recommend is asking your mom, because she will always say you're amazing.
Well, luckily for me, my mom is brutally honest. So
Okay.
I'll send her some pictures and some ads. And although she doesn't fall into my ideal client, she does make me think outside the box, and she'll make me change my ads and and go into your thing of just calling somebody up. It could be as something as simple as what I've done is just screenshot it and then send it out
Yep.
and say, hey, what do you think?
Yep. Yep. And people who are in the industry, me and you have a relationship. I've used your business, you've used mine before, and I feel like you feel comfortable always giving me a call like, hey, can we meet up and chat about this? Let me know what your instincts are on this. What do you think? That's the cool thing about having people in this industry, especially when it comes to helping promote your business, is we may have ideas that you don't have, or if we don't know the answer to the question you're asking, we can find it out from someone.
Yeah. So when running a paid ad, how important is the audience? Because I've seen people say that their broad audience has outperformed their target audience.
Yep. And it's, I mean, I tell people all the time, you can give a monkey a dart, he's going to hit a bullseye every now and then, it doesn't matter, and what was the infinite monkey theorem, where they say, you put a monkey, given an infinite amount of time, if you put a monkey at a typewriter, eventually he's going to type out the works of master work of Mark Twain. Things happen, things don't perform sometimes as well as other things. But what you do is you look at it over trends. You can subjugate it to just one simple, narrow thing. But if you look at trends over time, that tends to help. So although this campaign, the broad audience worked well over the targeted audience, you'd want to compare it to trends from other businesses in your line of work. So if the trend, and that's where Google's really helpful, like the media companies can look this stuff up. If the trend is showing that, the targeted audience is above average while the broad audience is down here as over a year span, you could think of it as that was the anomaly. You know what I mean? You want to gather information over time. And it's I believe I may have told you this before, but when you're doing targeted ads, you want at least 3 months worth of data. Without that, you don't have enough data to know, and that's still a very small amount of data. Like, that's bare minimum. If I'm talking with someone about targeted ads, especially, display Google ads or programmatic ads or contextual ads, like, these are ones where you need data. My recommendation is always a minimum 50,000 a month, and 3 months worth of data gives me a baseline to know how it's going.
So how are people collecting the data? Are they just from analytics or?
Analytics, signups, some of them can have, so like for Google AdWords, they have phone lines where it's a different number, but it connects to your actual phone line and it records how many people call you based off of that ad. Now, there's even an option where they can record the phone call so that you can listen to the calls and see if they were actual, like, did someone accidentally push the button and then when you answer, there's no one there? Or was this an actual conversation and I can show, hey, you got 115 calls based off these Google AdWords, which is 115 leads. And then all of a sudden you're listening to the recordings and the receptionist is not very helpful. And then you're like, oh, okay, the leads are coming in, but the receptionist doesn't know the product. We need to train her. Or, you know, we're getting the leads, but we're just not closing the sales, you know.
Which then goes into the back end problem of you got to change your sales process or how you handle your leads.
Exactly. You know, and there's just so much stuff out there that it's a lot to know, and it can overwhelm a small business owner sometimes.
And a lot to cover in one podcast. So
yeah.
A good follow-up off of that one is it can overwhelm a small business owner. So how important is it to a business owner that may, I'll have a two-part for this one actually, but how important would it be for a business owner to get set up with a company like yours or a marketing agency or somebody that has experience that they can then delegate the specifics to it? Because I might be able to run Facebook ads, but then to set up ads with certain phone numbers, analyze those ads off of which phone numbers got the most, then to know which audience and which demo and stuff like that, that becomes a full-time job for multiple people.
Yeah. So, so there's a lot to come with that. So you definitely want to have, you know, a media consultant that you trust and that is knowledgeable and that asks you the right questions. When you meet with a media consultant, you can get a feel for how well they're going to represent your business by the questions they're asking about your campaigns. If you call them and you say, you know, I'm looking at doing some advertising, can we meet? And they go in and they not once ask you, you know, what's the goal of your advertising? Probably not the best media consultant, you know, because how can I put something together for you if I don't even know what the goal of what you're trying to do is? If they don't ask you what have you had success with and what have you not, then they're going in there blind. They may come back with a proposal for you that is something you have tried, but that failed miserably. And you know, it's so having confidence in your media consultant is a big thing. Now, once you get to the part where you feel like you can spend at least $2,000 a month in advertising, that's a point where you might want to start thinking like agency or having a media buyer for you. At the day, our agency is D2. They're amazing. They do a great job. And I had a client, for instance, a restaurant that opened in Old Lyme called Kokomo's. They were, you know, they needed a lot of help at first. So I did a lot of the steps to get them to a point to where their advertising could be successful. Their website at the time had like no kind of keywords built into it. So the SEO was really not there to be able to run digital ads. So we kind of had to build them up to be able to run the digital ads. Once we got to the point where they're successful, they knew they were going to stay open year round, and they were ready for the advertising, it became too much for me alone to handle all of the stuff they needed. So what I did was I referred them to our advertising agency, which has the ability to do TV, billboards, radio buys, supermarket, you know, signs on the push gates or whatever. They have a lot broader reach for me that can help someone that gets to that point of spending. They also, the marketing team, the agency has less clients to have to deal with. So the agency typically, because they only deal with a little bit higher of the spending for advertising, that agency has a core group of 25 clients that they manage on a daily basis, and they're nonstop. That's all they do. They're checking on those 25 clients every day or every other day. And then
it's a very close service,
very interweaved. And the people in the agency that we have been doing this for years and years. Like, the agency has their own designers, they have their own ad assistant, they have their own sales team, they have their own, it's completely its own little thing, and it encompasses a lot more than what I do for my clients. You know, the difference between them is they have 25 clients while I have 145. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
because a lot of mine are smaller clients that I can deal with in a manner of a day or two. And then I have my larger clients also that just want to stay with me, and I meet with them quarterly, and we go over their quarterly advertisements. It's usually a long meeting, but once we sit down, we have their next quarter planned out. And then from there, all it is just getting the creative organized and all of that.
So how would you advise a company that, say, isn't at the point of being able to hire an ad agency, or even at the point that they can hire a marketing company to run ads for them? Maybe they're a startup and they're just bootstrapping it, and they don't have the money to pay. They can throw money at Facebook themselves, but they can't pay somebody to handle the back end management. How would you advise that they handle their social medias until they can get to that point? Like, how can they get to you faster?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, as a startup, the thing about startups is a lot of the times they're called startups for a reason. They're not operational yet. They're building the groundwork to get them to a point to where they can deliver on what they're trying to sell or produce. So it's hard for them. The thing is, they do have a lot of resources. I can't remember. I know there's one in Groton. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a group where you can go, and there's other startups all in one building.
YP, I think. Young professionals.
Right. So they have different ones. They have one in Hartford. There's one in New London. There's one in Norwich. There's one in Groton. But it's like a shared office where you go in, you have assets there at the office. I know there's lawyers that volunteer time at those places to help these guys get set up contractually. And a lot of the people that are there can help. Like, some of them do charge, but like reduced rates. Some of them do it for free for like a percentage of the company, like once it does go. So they're really cool, like workspace environments. I'm sorry, the name of the one in Groton is slipping my head, but it's a phenomenal idea, and it's a great way to help advance yourself really quickly. But in the meantime, it never hurts to advertise. I mean, building your Facebook up and, you know, as part of your schedule every day, the beginning of the day, an interesting post about your field and the news of the day for your field or something. At the end of the day, a photo of you doing something for your business that's interesting. So you got one post in the morning, one in the evening, one right when you get to work, one as you're leaving work. That way you get into the routine of, well, there's 2 messages a day, something cool about my field and then something awesome that I did, you know, or something like that. It's getting your name out there, and then obviously boosting if you can. The thing about boosting is that it only goes to your friends and friends of friends. If you have the money and you go through the actual Facebook ad, like the sponsored content ad, that's where I would focus the money, because that goes out to the broad spectrum of Facebook, not just friends and friends of friends. And you can demo those as well. So depending on what your company offers. You would be surprised how inexpensive print advertising can be. And I get really tired of I hear it a lot. Print is dead. Print's dying. It's not going to be here. The unique thing about our area here in southeastern Connecticut is that the demo is of an age that love the newspaper. The demo of buyers out here are, over that 45-year-old mark, where they grew up, their dad got the morning and the afternoon paper, and every day it started with him reading the paper with a cup of coffee, and then in the evening reading the paper with a glass of scotch. You know what I mean? And then those are the people still here that and that build up our circulation area. They love the paper. They love it. I'll give you an example. One of my clients, Scott's Meats, our writer who does reviews for stores, did a review of his restaurant on a whim in the day, the New London Day. For the next 3 weeks, he was sold out by 2:00 every day.
Wow.
Literally the day after that review came out, for the next 3 weeks, he was sold out every day before 2. It had never happened before. It just shows the power of how print media works in our area. It's the reason it does work. Number one, it's hyper local. It's hyper regional for our area, the news that people want to see. And then number two, it's the demo of the people who live in our area are paper readers.
So yeah, that's great. So overall, paper might be trending down, but our area is at least keeping it alive for now.
Right. And don't get me wrong, there are areas in the country where print it's having its difficulties, but these are the areas, like you're talking like Silicon Valley and, very young demo areas. The young demos tend to be much more tech savvy, much more, if I can't do it on my phone, then I don't even want to, it's
then I'm not going to do it.
It's like, you mean I can't do it on my phone? However, the people here are in that range where, they're like,
it's almost the opposite.
Exactly. They're like between the World War II generation and the boomers, So it's like you're in that area of people that still appreciate print. They appreciate the tactile feeling of holding a newspaper and reading a story. So yeah, that's one of the advantages of the area we live in, print.
So I don't want to keep going too far. We could have 2-3 podcasts with the amount of the questions that can come out here. So I want to ask a couple more.
Okay.
One that I think is important, especially for those business owners that can't afford to hire out for marketing. How do you go about putting a marketing calendar together?
So the biggest thing about putting together a marketing plan or a proposal for a client is if they're very honest with me about their budget. So that's one of the key things. And if they're honest with me about a budget, I don't care if it's $100 a month or $2,000 a month. $100 a month is very low, but
is $100 a month doable for someone? Can somebody come to you for $100 a month? Obviously, it's probably not ideal, and it probably won't work a lot. But can somebody skate by with $100 a month if that's all they have? Absolutely.
So with $100 a month, I could get them into our business directory that comes out in every single weekly paper and in the New London Day on Thursdays. And it's a grouping of businesses, all advertising for the different things. There's a lot of like plumbers and home builders and landscapers in this section, but I can get them a nice section covering about 1/8 of a page bi-weekly. So every other week they could have an ad in every paper we do for $100.
So going back into the marketing calendar, how do you put it together, or how should somebody put together, especially when you're forecasting you're forecasting the whole year, right? When you do that?
Well, it depends. I only have one client that I do a yearly. Well, I have two that I do a yearly proposal for and a contract, basically. Typically, I try to work most of them by quarters, because number one, it keeps me fresh with them. It makes me have to check in with them, and it also makes me makes me feel responsible for them at the same time. But and then we can break it up into seasons too, because a lot of the work around here is seasonal.
Yeah.
So if I know that there's no purpose in me planning for anything after Labor Day for them, because they shut down Labor Day and then they open back up in Memorial Day. I know that in March I'm contacting them saying, hey, when do you want to set up our appointment for your ad plan coming up this summer? We set up a date well in advance of when everything's going to go. We talk about ideas. We talk about what they felt was successful last year, anything new they're doing this year, and stuff like that. So any new client, when I go in, I'll also kind of say, I'll ask all the questions that I need to ask. What's the goals? What do you do? How do you want me to do this? And ask what their expectation is of me, basically. And then once I have a budget, I can go back and do my research with Google, with print. I talk with the agency guy a lot too, Dave Geller, who runs D2, and kind of brainstorm what the best package I can put together for them.
So is a marketing calendar literally pre-writing ads for the whole quarter, or do you have a general idea of what you're going to do over the quarter?
It's more getting the information from the client. So let's say I'm meeting for first quarter. So I'm meeting with them and I'm out, okay, what do you have coming up in January? Oh, okay, in January we have all the month of January, we give away free ballet lessons. For each week in January, you can come for free to see if you want to sign up for ballet. Like, okay, that's what we're gearing our advertising for. We're promoting your free ballet classes in January to try to get leads and get you more people to sign up for the classes. Okay, how about February? Well, in February, we have our signups for the intensive summer camp program. Okay, well, we need to get these people in. And so I have an idea of what each month we need to focus on. And then as that month approaches, we organize the creative for that month. And then it's kind of like a little break, a 2-week break. And then I call them again and we organize the creative for the next month. Some of my clients, they design their own creative. So I don't have to worry about that at the beginning of each month, or towards the beginning of each month, they will send me their ads and then I just plug it into our system. But when it comes to, because for the day, the creative services are included in all of our packages. You don't have to pay for us to do the creative and design work. So there are a lot of clients that take advantage of that.
So if you, so for someone of a small business that wanted to put their own marketing calendar together, the basis would be to get your goal for that month set, maybe a quarter ahead, January, February, March, April, May, all the way. That's what I want to get for that month. And then the creative is still kind of not last minute, but the last thing to get put together.
Yeah, I need to have an idea of what they're wanting to promote before I can put together a creative.
Yeah.
If I went in there with a pre-designed ad and said, this is what I want to run for January, and they're like, we don't do that in January. Like, oh, it looks bad on me. I need to get the information to properly create the ad program that they need for that month. And it might not just be one thing. It could be 2 things or 3 things for that month. They may want to advertise something different each of the weeks, when let's say you're talking, when you're talking like grocery stores and stuff, that's a weekly thing, man. It's like, you're like, daily. Okay. Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah. I mean, they have inserts that go out Thursdays and Sundays. It's like, it's crazy, but the cool thing about those big, grocery stores is typically they have an agency. So you deal with someone, the agency typically does all the design work. It's just more of me scheduling it through our system.
Yeah.
So, but it's still a lot of contact,
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. So last 2 questions for you.
All right.
What do you like to do in your free time?
Man, you know what? I've been doing a lot of like DIY stuff, like do it yourself stuff around the house. And I've been buying cool new tools. And I mean, it sounds funny, but I'm really getting into like doing stuff myself. Like I did my fireplace myself. I repaired a door myself. We went out and cleared a lot of stuff, but I do need to give you a call after this because I have a project for you. But yeah, I've been, and doing stuff with my kids. They, unfortunately the basketball season ended early, but I volunteer reffing for their league. I love to play basketball. We do a lot of kayaking and hiking. And we're big foodies too. When we find a good restaurant, we like finding good restaurants. So,
well, down in Texas, you guys take food seriously.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So you deal with a lot of business owners. In your opinion, what defines a successful business owner? It doesn't have to be the money aspect either.
Yeah. No, I mean, a successful business owner, I'll tell you this, especially for small businesses, if you do what you say you're going to do, follow up with any kind of, business that someone may refer to you.
Mm-hmm. Referrals.
Right? Treat your employees well. And keep a good eye on the books. I think those are some of the biggest things that can help a business. I mean, obviously the number one thing is being good at what you do, and that goes along with do what you say you're going to do. So mm-hmm. if someone comes to me and says, I need you to do this, and I say, yeah, but I don't do it, why would they ever come back to me?
Yeah.
But I think following up with what you say, treating your employees well, because without your employees, it's hard to do everything yourself. Treating your employees with respect, treating them well, following up with what business people give to you, because a lot of the industry, and we didn't get into this in the podcast, is word of mouth.
We should almost do a follow-up, because I probably have about 15 other questions that I either didn't ask or want to ask.
Yeah. No, man, I mean, I enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me on, and, I think it's great. So I appreciate you having me, man.
No, I appreciate you coming, because definitely marketing's that one thing that we all want to do, but we don't understand, at least most of us. So shed some light on how they might be able to do it themselves for a little while, or show how important it is to get somebody to do it for you. But,
yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you or get in touch with the day?
Okay. So my email address is c.elliot@theday.com. So that's c.elliott@theday.com. And my cell phone number is 860-984-2181. And that's the best way right now, especially because I'm working from home. My office number is kind of useless.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm more than happy to help anyone with anything. I can do meetings through Zoom just like this. And, even if they're not in my territory, I can direct them to the other qualified person that works with me that runs their territory. So I do want to reiterate the www.theday.com/supporting business. Any business, anywhere, still operating, free advertising, no catch, no nothing. It's something we're doing to help businesses stay afloat during this time. So
awesome. So thank you for joining me, Chaz.
I appreciate it, Jordan. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem.
Thanks for listening to the CT Business Podcast. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode. Are you a Connecticut business owner? We want to hear your story. Connect with us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at CT Business Podcast.